Hi. There's so much energy in the world right now that is asking you to move forward. And while I will ask you to slow down a bit, I'm not just going to ask you to slow down because we can slow down and avoid the real thing. Instead, I'll ask you to pause and ask yourself this one question. What is the root of my desire? Because that changes everything. During this time when there's so much momentum in the sky, whatever we put our energy towards has the ability to move really fast. And while that can be amazing, it can also be destabilizing if the thing that we're building doesn't have real solid foundations. Now, I already did a video where I broke down this new moon in Aries, the seventh planet pileup in Aries, which is insane. Today, I wanted to get a little bit deeper into what Mars is doing. I pulled some tarot cards, some empowerment cards. We're just going to take a little bit more of a fluid approach to this. When I asked the advice for this new moon, I got the Four of Swords. Now, that's really interesting because when you think of Aries, if you're familiar with the Aries archetype, the Four of Swords and the Four of Swords archetype, which as you can tell, he's sleeping, this is a time of mental rest, contemplation, meditation, pulling the energy back. That seems very opposite to Aries energy, right? Aries is go. However, the ruler of Aries is Mars. Mars is currently sitting in Aries, which just amplifies the Aries energy. But who is he sitting next to? Saturn. Saturn is doing a whole lot of work in this new moon. And one of the things he's saying is stop. Essentially, Mars says go, Saturn says stop. But Saturn isn't just this horrible taskmaster who just wants you to be miserable and depressed. He wants you to be really aware of the consequences of your actions, of the discipline you're going to have, the commitment you're going to have. Because ultimately, Saturn reminds us you have limited time on this earth in this form. And that can be really crushing, but it can also be really freeing when you recognize that it's not to push you down, but to rise you up. To recognize that because of your limited time, your limited attention, your limited awareness, what will you put your attention and precious, precious energy toward? And sometimes when there is so much momentum, in order for us to discern that, we need to pause. The Four of Swords energy is asking you to contemplate the direction in which you are moving all of this Martian energy. Now, I asked, what is the fear underneath resting, right? Because when we have all this Aries energy, we don't want to stop. I'm noticing this in my own body somatically as well, day to day, like how much energy, there is this like conflicting energy in me where my body is really tired and yet my energy is like, go. And having to hold that tension in my own somatic work recently a lot and in my day-to-day actions that I'm taking, Mars wanting to just go, 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 and the spirit and the energy feeling so high, but that being rooted in a sense of dysregulation in the nervous system rather than true desire to continue going. This is why it's so important to discern between where, like, what the root of the desire is, because a lot of times our movement towards something is really a movement away from something else. So the fear that I got was the Hierophant. And the Hierophant is really about structure and tradition, a lot of things, but this is a way that I interpret this card as the fear position is that we're terrified of this thing that we want to do, or that voice that becomes really clear when we get quiet of how we want to move forward. We're really terrified that if we move toward that, we will not be accepted. People will, maybe this is being accepted by a certain community, maybe the world at large, because there's this feeling that this new direction that we want to move toward is creative, it's innovative, it's different. And how will that be taken? A lot of the people that I work with, and myself included, we're very self-aware. If you're watching this right now, I could probably already tell you you're incredibly self-aware. You care about what people think, you don't want to hurt other people. You're very conscious of or conscientious of the things that you do. It's so beautiful, it's so admirable. And it's also what keeps us really stuck. It keeps us really stuck because we cannot control other people's perceptions. We cannot control our belonging outside of ourselves, which is why it's so important to belong to ourselves first. And this is really hard to do when you don't have a felt experience of love and safety within your own body. I did not really have an felt experience of love and safety in my own body for much of my life. And so I was always seeking belonging out there. And that kept me out of my true expression because if I'm always seeking validation of my worthiness out in the world by the actions I take, right? And that is the root of my desire to take actions to please people, to take actions to do the thing that other people say is the right thing versus pausing and listening and contemplating on what it is that I truly want, then I'm never going to ever feel satisfied by the level of action that I'm taking in the world because it's rooted in a sense of I need to belong. I need other people to see me. I need people to say that it's okay to do this thing. You know, in my new moon video, I talked about how this new moon is sitting in gate 3, which is difficulty at the beginning or bringing order out of chaos, and how chaos breeds creation. And creation is naturally innovative, and innovation naturally challenges the status quo. So being creative requires a sense of boldness, right? Wanting to live a creative life, not following this path that is just offered to us as this is what you should do, and rather being wanting a life that comes from your authentic self-expression. It's going to require you to challenge a lot of what people consider quote unquote normal in the world. As somebody who's a former pharmacist, and now I'm sitting here doing this, that was a real fear of mine too. And just really the fear of like letting people see you expressing yourself in a different way that maybe goes against the ways that you've acted before. One of the ways that this can show up really sneaky, this like, what is the root of my desire, is a lot of times we can do the right things, especially when you're really self aware. You know how to do the right things, meaning you will meditate. You will go to therapy. You will get astrology readings. You will spend time in reflection. But the root of that is running away from yourself. There's something to fix. There's something I have to do to be okay. I have to make sure that I know myself well enough so I'm not hurting people, that I'm making the right decisions. That is coming from a state of freeze in the nervous system. Functional freeze is essentially what we call it. Being a pharmacist came at a really interesting point in my life because all my life I wanted to be a forensic psychiatrist, interviewing criminals and helping them. Ever since I was a little kid, I loved detective stories, right? This is my Mercury-Pluto opposition in my angular houses. Nancy Drew. I was just telling my partner the other day that I used to watch Diagnosis Murder when I was like 8. And he was like, "What?" He's like, "That's like an old person show with Dick Van Dyke and his son." Anyone else? Anyone else watch that show? It was like when I first came to America, and I was like in love with Dick Van Dyke. Anyway, I loved forensic psychiatry. When I got into college, 18, I was pre-med. I was with psychology as my major, and I got really sick. I got a bunch of autoimmune disorders. And when that happened, I went through the medical system for like 6 months and I was like, this is trash. No offense to anyone in the medical system, including my own self, who was in it. But I was like, there's no way I could be a medical doctor. Like they are not helping me at all. And then I went to naturopaths and they didn't help me either. And eventually I just had to heal myself. But what that made me realize was I don't want to be a doctor. And now my whole life was just crashing before my eyes, right? I had this path of convention. And through this contemplation and healing, I was like, wait, I don't want to do this anymore. And now what do I do? I have no idea what I'm going to do. The internet's like wasn't what it is today. And I was like, I want to share this message, but like, who's going to believe me? I'm 21. Maybe they'll think I'm lying about my autoimmune disorders, all this stuff. And so I said, okay, let me just go down a path that is respectable, where I won't be the one giving people medications, like prescribing it to them. I'll just be the one giving it to them. It's out of my control. This is a 21-year-old really trying to find safety and security after their whole life is kind of broken down. And my soul was crushed in that experience because I wanted to make sure that I belonged, that I was respected, that people trusted me, not knowing that trust comes from something much, much deeper than the title that we have. This is the kind of energy that we can often have in the world where it's like, okay, I have this desire, I want to move toward it. But if we look deeper and we start listening to the body, just noticing if I imagine not doing this thing that I want to move towards, what happens in my body? Is it relief? Is it grief? Is it joy? And that can give you some answers as well, along with, the video that I did on desire and how to distinguish desire, which I'll have linked down below. I walk you through the different types of desire, and then also I ask you questions so that you can see where this energy is rooted in. Is it rooted in moving towards something that you really aspire, or to try to compensate for something else? Because Saturn reveals consequence. So Saturn is a sombering energy. Mars is like, woo, I'm going to do this thing. I'm so excited. I have so much energy. And Saturn's like, and here is an illness. And you're like, bro, you're such a party pooper, And it's like, no, he's trying to tell you there are limitations to this reality. The spirit can be huge, but in this lifetime, it is inside of this. And so this is not just I got to take care of it. It's like, this is the thing that allows you to do anything. And there's so much wisdom here. The wisdom of Saturn, oh man, that comes through so strongly in the body. When we know the right things to do, we can often be more stuck than people who are not conscientious, right? People who aren't self-aware. They're just acting. They're just going out there and doing stuff. So you've really got to strike this balance, right? You've got to strike this balance and allow yourself to move toward emotional fulfillment. Because the thing is, yeah, you're not going to be able to make people accept you, to like you. You can't control it. I mean, I have so many stories. I would love to tell these stories because there's so much to learn from projections in these stories, but of where people just like really hated me. And it didn't matter how much I tried to understand why, or I tried to be like, hey, like, what's going on? Why are you acting like this? It wasn't in my control. And all I can do, because this is a misconception about projection. People think that projection is like, oh, it's just them. Oh, it's just them. You're just projecting. It's all about you. But if you're bothered by them projecting, there's something that is hooking into you. So there's a belief, right? Like there was for me, that even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, that somehow I was responsible for why they didn't like me, or to make things better. You cannot control what other people see in you. You just can't. And when you really have a felt experience of belonging to yourself, that becomes less important. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. Of course I care. Of course I care what other people think. Self-awareness is not a bad thing. Conscientiousness is not a bad thing. But when it paralyzes you and it becomes the root of everything that you do, including staying the same and not going after the thing that will actually fulfill you and satisfy you because you're scared of other people and what they're going to think, that's no longer a helpful quality to have, right? I just want to finish this off by reading this Power of Yang card that I pulled. I mean, Aries is so yang. How weird is it that I got this? And then the message is so Mars Saturn. It says, I am in control of my future. I am a person who takes action with intention. I endure difficulty and strength, knowing that the result of perseverance is success. Like the sun, I radiate confidence as success is pulled into my orbit. I will be victorious based on my merit, not the whims of chance. This is something I want to say. Sometimes the world comes in and offers us a new opportunity. Sometimes really cool things happen by chance. Sometimes the right transit hits your life and a person comes in, or an opportunity comes in, or this feeling comes in, and it's like, yep, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do what I really love. Most of the time, that doesn't happen. Saturn asks you, are you willing to pay the consequence of waiting for that time? What are the consequences? Getting to an age and being closer to death and realizing, I wish I would have just done what made me happy. Why did I waste my life doing what other people wanted? Reading the confessions of people on their deathbeds, and you'll see a pattern. That's a huge one. Why did I care so much? Why did I work so hard? Why didn't I spend more time with people I love? Why wasn't I myself? Why was I so scared? If you want to wait for the whims of chance to make you feel like you're ready, to make you feel like you're, that it's time to become the person you've always wanted to be, there's a real risk in that. Amazing messages coming through. I am so excited to be offering something that can help a lot of people who are in this place. My group program, Creative Rewilding, it starts April 18th, the day after this new moon. And it is going to be combining somatics, expression, astrology, human design in this community space for those people who know that they're here for more. But there's something inside of them, which is in the body, right? We got to work with it at a nervous system level that is saying no. And the things that I've used in my own life to be able to get to this point where I can express myself, offer my gifts in the way that feels good to me, not just because you know what? This is what I'll tell you. A lot of people get into this space, like they're like, oh, they're a pharmacist and they become a creator. And, now they're doing something they love. And very quickly it turns into something they hate again because they're still doing it under the same pattern of like, I need to be successful. I need this to be merited by how many people watch me, how much money I make from it, rather than the true fulfillment of the act. And so it doesn't matter what you're doing. If the root of that is externally oriented or oriented from a space of disconnection, it's not going to ever make you feel that sense of satisfaction and success and happiness that you're not even happiness, like peace, fulfillment that you're looking for. So Creative Rewilding is open for enrollment. I'll have that link down below if that sounds like something that you are wanting to move towards right now, to rewild your creative self-expression. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you next time.